Raul Valle was just 16 years old when he stabbed 17-year-old James McGrath to death. It was the continuation of a wild, violent teenage brawl outside of a house party. Valle was facing murder charges and turned down a 40-year plea offer. At trial, he claimed self-defense. The jury heard from numerous witnesses at the scene of the stabbing, including 3 other teenagers who were stabbed by Valle but survived. Then Raul Valle took the stand in his own defense, faced an intense cross-examination. Then when the jury finally got the case, it seemed like a verdict would not be reached, with the jury sending out multiple notes about being deadlocked. And then today, finally, a verdict was reached. A courtroom was shocked. And tonight, everyone is asking, was justice served? Tonight, we'll show you the dramatic moment and all the reaction and fallout from today's decision by the Connecticut jury. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments on another verdict night. Oh, my goodness, is what I'm saying tonight. Let's remember what this case is about. This case is about a knife at a fist fight. Teenagers fight all the time. Unfortunately, it's just, par for the course. And this melee, one person had a weapon. It was a knife. That person used that knife and took someone's life. James McGrath was stabbed to death. Crystal clear. We know that happened. We know who did it. This wasn't a whodunit. It was, Raul Valle had the knife. Raul Valle plunged that knife into James McGrath and took his life at 17 years old in the middle of a fist fight and a brawl where no one else had a weapon. Raul Valle testified and basically told this jury, I was scared. Now, there's an advantage that I believe he had, and I've talked about this, because James McGrath wasn't in court. They didn't get to see or hear from him. They don't realize what was lost, who this 17-year-old was. As much as prosecutors attempted to do, you just cannot recreate who that person is who lost their life. But the person whose life is on the line in a murder case got up on the stand and told his story, and he was emotional, and he was young, and he looks young. Even though he's older than he was at the time, he still looks young. And all that comes into play. And today was the day. After all the notes and all the deadlocks, the jury speaks loudly. And this is one of those cases where you just got to hold on and take a listen to the verdict.
Count 1 of the substitute information charges the defendant, Raul Valle, with the crime of murder in violation of Section 53A-54A of the Connecticut General Statutes. Do you find the defendant guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
As to count 1 of the substitute information charging the defendant with the lesser included offense of manslaughter in the first degree intentional in violation of Section 53A-55(a)(1) of the Connecticut General Statutes, do you find the defendant guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
Count 2 of the substitute information charges the defendant with the crime of assault in the first degree intentional in violation of Section 53A-59(a)(1) of the Connecticut General Statutes. Do you find the defendant guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
Count 3 of the substitute information charges the defendant with the crime of assault in the first degree intentional in violation of Section 53A-59(a)(1) of the Connecticut General Statutes. Do you find the defendant guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
4 of the substitute information charges the defendant with the crime of assault in the second degree intentional in violation of Section 53A-60(a)(2) of the Connecticut General Statutes. Do you find the defendant guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
Welcome to the summer of Not Guilty on Court TV, folks. Here we go again. You can agree or disagree, but there's a pattern here. This is not a coincidence. Something is happening. Now, there still were some deadlock counts in all of this, so it's not completely over. Murder, not guilty. First-degree manslaughter, not guilty. First-degree manslaughter, reckless. There was a deadlock. Okay. Count 2, assault first degree, not guilty. First degree reckless, deadlocked. Second degree, deadlocked. Second degree reckless, deadlocked. Count 3, first degree, not guilty. First degree reckless, deadlock. Second degree, deadlock. Second degree reckless, deadlock. And finally, count 4, second degree, not guilty. Second degree reckless, deadlock. This jury spoke very loudly. They're basically saying it's justifiable that James McGrath should have died that day. That's what self-defense is. It says he deserved it. That's what you're saying. It's called justifiable homicide. When you find someone not guilty of murder and self-defense is the defense, you're telling the world, sorry, James, you deserve to die that day because of your actions. That was the verdict. Now, you could agree or disagree with it. I'm shocked. I am shocked. Like, not even on the lessers does anyone believe that there's criminal accountability here. They were deadlocked on that. Let's bring in our think tank, see what they have to say about all this. Joining me live in the studio, family law attorney, law professor Randy Kessler, criminal defense attorney, law professor Meg Strickler. A lot of brains on this couch tonight. Criminal defense attorney, the man behind the glasses, Josh Schiffer. Like, I am shocked that this jury's saying that was okay, James McGrath, you deserved to die because of your actions.
You got some frothy right here, Mr. Vinnie.
Yeah.
You are wound on this one because the jury said nothing about what you just talked about. What the jury said, the jury sent a loud message to the state to stop headhunting.
No, it's not headhunting. This is not a whodunit. This is not a whodunit. We know who did it.
Clearly.
We know who did it. But what the jury is saying, when you say self-defense, what you're saying is the person who is dead deserved it. It was justifiable.
You're making my head
That's what the jury is saying.
A sympathetic jury. We've all heard about a sympathetic jury. The jury doesn't want to convict this guy of murder because of the totality of the circumstances.
Correct.
What do you mean?
They can find that.
That's mumbo jumbo.
Do you see how many kids were in that video? Now,
Sure.
who was on trial? One person.
Yeah.
What happened with any charges for anyone
Who
else?
stabbed James McGrath to death?
It wasn't in a vacuum that part occurred.
There wasn't a vacuum.
It's
It was on the front lawn of the house.
And remember, the jury's not commenting on anything he did.
Correct.
The jury's commenting on the state's failure to present a case that a jury has permission to convict on.
All the evidence is there about who did it. It's what was it. The jury is just telling us what was this.
They said no intent for first degree. That part was not guilty, not guilty, not guilty.
Right.
Yeah, so there's no statement getting made by a jury other than that the state failed yet again.
Right, they didn't say innocent, right? He's not declared innocent.
Not innocent at all.
Exactly.
He was not proven guilty.
Nobody said he's guilty of anything.
They deadlocked.
And whose
Which is
obligation was that to prove?
Thank you. The prosecution.
It's not about obligation to prove. It's about what was it. We know what it was. All the facts are not in dispute here. Are the facts in dispute?
Could you come to work with me for a few days and just be a defense attorney for 5 minutes, please?
Oh, no, I'm not doing those 5 minutes.
Oh, it'd be great. It'd be luscious.
I still want to end up in the right place at the end of all
The
this.
right street's the right place.
Listen, only kidding, Meg.
There is a special place for prosecutors.
There is for prosecutors.
Especially Fulton
The
County.
facts of this case are not in dispute, are they? What are the facts that are in dispute here?
There's dispute as to...
isn't it?
Yes, there absolutely.
About the helmet?
Intent?
The intent.
Is the intent of, like, he absolutely stabbed someone to death.
Without
we
question,
know that.
there's a stabbing and
so
there's
at
a
a
death.
minimum, that is some form of manslaughter, but they could not even come to that. So at least 1, perhaps 11 of these jurors believed that this was justifiable homicide.
No, an
They
acquittal.
didn't want to convict him.
Correct.
That's all.
Why didn't they want to convict him?
An acquittal is
What was
not
the
justifiable homicide.
Listen to me.
It is when it's a self-defense defense. Do you think this jury
just
came
give
back
up.
and said,
Yeah.
you
Just
didn't
give
prove
up.
who did it?
Do we need
Meg
to
nailed it. Look, you had all these people there that could have been found guilty of something, and they only charged 1. This is a room full of people that are saying he wasn't treated fairly.
There was one with a knife.
Agreed.
We don't have enough time to grow the whole forest so you can see the trees. I'm telling you, Vinny, the state presented some really good evidence that this kid was involved in a horrible fight that resulted in a kid dying. And guess what?
It's a horrible fight. It's a fist fight.
He
And
didn't do it
no
intentionally.
immunity for
It was a
him.
fist fight. Did he intentionally have the knife?
Look, there's more people there than the one person.
Well, he didn't even have to show up, by the way, to this second fight. He could have not come there. It's Connecticut. It's not Florida. It's not stand your ground.
What about the group chats and all the things these people said? There's a lot more going on here.
And where's the class issue that we all know underlies all of this? Because that's what we really have going on here in Southern Connecticut is some class issues.
What are you talking about?
Oh,
Are you
look
kidding
at what
me?
those
You're
kids
from New
did
Jersey.
lawyering up.
Yes.
You got the kids that had the ability to get really solid legal services
The
versus...
kid with the knife stabbed James McGrath.
And his
Raul
lawyer
Valle
did a pretty good job.
Right.
Yes.
His lawyer did a
Lawyer was
wonderful
amazing.
job.
Exceptional.
I'm not talking about the
Exceptional.
job the lawyer did. I'm talking about what the message the jury is sending
They're
tonight.
not sending
was a
a
reflection
message of justice.
And it was a reflection on the job the state did,
Thank you.
which I'm going to say,
So you're
and the
saying
jury
this-
agrees, was a failure.
All right, let's take a listen to James McGrath's father, who spoke afterwards.
I'm astonished at the result. But, you know, it's due process. He's entitled to it. And at the end of the day, the jury made their verdict. I'm not sure, you know, if they're in the same courtroom as we all were together. But that's the verdict, and we'll live with it, and we'll work closely with the prosecution to get resolution. Can't even imagine that, you know, I'm standing here giving this part of the speech. I mean, I was ready for maybe manslaughter. I was not ready for not guilty. I'll be honest with you. I don't think anybody was. Just in shock that an innocent young man with a brilliant potential is not with us anymore, and the person that took his life is right now free. Jimmy was a wonderful person. He, you know, both Rosie and Jimmy were the light of our lives. He was just great personality, good kid, funny kid, great athlete, a team player. I mean, you just see by the support that we have how good of a kid he was. And, you know, he's truly missed. He's something that, you know, he probably, you know, if he was alive, he's the type of person that would probably make a lot of great changes in the world. I mean, he was, you know, again, I always say he's, you know, behind the foundation. He started helping his friends out who had a lot of issues and different types of issues on his own, unbeknownst to us. So he's just, you know, we're just going to continue on, honor his memory through our foundation, and, you know, whatever we can do. And, you know, we want to get, you know, we want to get the kids that testified and the witnesses and all of his friends the help that they need.
So what was the message sent by the jury today?
They weren't hired to send a message. They were hired to decide guilt or not guilty, and they made that decision. They weren't sending a message to the community. They were,
What was this? What was this? What was this fight?
This
Was it so every time there's a brawl, we can bring a knife and stab someone to death?
Maybe we don't have alcohol-infused parties and have fights that get to this point. I'm not fighting you on that part.
Let's not skip over the fact that Vinnie was just talking about knife availability. Maybe we need some more regulations about weapons. Is that what you're saying, that we should disarm more people and prevent them from having knives? Because
No, what I'm saying is fist fights among teenagers have been going on for years and years and years. It's not going to end.
Nope.
It never will. There will be fights.
100%.
So what is it okay now? You're in a fight, you have a knife, it's okay. Like, I don't understand that. Like,
But you're
self-defense is supposed to be...
You're trying to generalize. What
Right.
we're saying here, in this particular storyline, in this particular case, the jury made their decision. And our criminal justice
Well,
system
what-
is such
what is
that
that
we have
decision?
to live with it.
The decision
What
was
is this?
that the state didn't present a case that allowed the jury to convict on the top charge, because there
On
wasn't
any charge.
because there wasn't
He's not
evidence.
convicted on any charge.
And Dad,
They didn't acquit him on everything, and if they had
They didn't acquit him,
on
but he did not... But,
they were
okay,
saying 40 years in
wait,
jail
wait,
is
wait.
not what they wanted.
Number
for this
one,
guy.
every defense attorney, deadlock jury claims victory.
No.
All right, admit it. You do. You absolutely do. That is another day that your client is not convicted. So that's a victory in and of itself. He was not convicted of anything today.
But that
of
doesn't even-
anything. This jury could not unanimously say that what happened that night was a crime.
And that's why I give big kudos to Dad for being so cool, calm, and collected, considering how angry I would be that the state, rather than go get convictions that were easy to get.
What was the state supposed to do?
Charge it right.
Charge it
Rudy
properly.
Don't charge it with murder.
properly.
Raul Valle.
Thank you.
Don't charge him with murder, just like you don't charge Diddy with racketeering or Karen Reed with murder.
But
what do these
we
things
went
all have
through
in
this.
common?
Get rid of Rico,
This was
period.
not all or nothing. There was first-degree manslaughter. Second-degree reckless assault. This wasn't even reckless.
But they didn't acquit him of those things.
Those are deadlocked.
But they did not convict him.
Because they were
you're
so
missing one point.
confused on the murder that the state said he murdered. Or if it's not murder, maybe it's this. Or if it's not maybe this, maybe it's this.
Well, one
How
side
many
is saying
times?
it's nothing.
But also the jury.
One side is saying it's not a crime.
They don't have a burden.
Vinny, don't forget this. The jury is not a unified
I
body.
have a burden, but you do have some burden when it's self-defense.
They did not unanimously acquit. They did not all 12 jurors say we find him not guilty. What they didn't do is they didn't get 12 people to say he was guilty. So there were people. There were people
That's
on the
what
jury.
I'm saying. 12 people in Connecticut do not agree
But 11
that
of them
this
may
was
have.
a crime.
But 11 of them may have.
Not even second-degree reckless assault.
It is what it is.
Yeah. Man, you got to go complain to the people
So
that
you think
brought
that's
the charges.
justice tonight?
I
Yes.
promise the defense would have
This
given a
is
different set
justice.
of charges had they decided what to charge with.
Yes.
But we
yes,
trust these
yes.
prosecutors.
And
the
remember,
prosecutors made an
tonight.
error.
remember, the plea offer was 40 years.
40
It's not
years.
about the
That's
jury has nothing to do with the plea
ridiculous.
offer.
Yes, it
Yes,
does,
it
because
does.
if you can't convince a jury, then your plea offer is garbage. Your plea offer is worthless.
The
if you
jury
can't prove
doesn't
the
know
case.
about the plea offer. The jury doesn't consider
we're
the plea offer.
talking about
We're
the
talking about
prosecutorial
what happened that
quality.
night. The 3 survivors who testified, the video that they saw, the girlfriend of the defendant who testified
clearly-
for the
We
state.
Yes, we
And
saw
pretty
it all.
clearly, the DA's office doesn't know how juries view what they view.
Yes.
And they disagree
Right,
with the
so that's
state.
what I'm saying. In Connecticut, apparently, it's no problem. It's not a crime to bring a knife to a fist fight and use it.
How do you calculate the value of the defendant testifying, right? We all sit here and it never happens. They got to see him and hear his own words.
He was very genuine.
They listened to him.
Hooked to hang their hat, and they
sympathized.
all got into his shoes. They,
No one's answered my question about what the message was. You don't believe there is a message?
There's no message.
we need better prosecutors who do
All
their
right. Well,
job
what do you think
better.
the message that is being received by the public? How about all the teenagers?
Your
What message did they get?
Your prosecutors charge things wrongly.
Next time
and
you get in a
can't
fight, make sure you have a knife.
No, I think any teenager that sees this says, boy, that guy got lucky. I don't want to be in his position and even risk that.
Yeah.
I hope that's the message.
Look,
All right,
we all
we've
have
got more to
teenagers.
talk about. There's the knife, by the way. We've got more to talk about on this because it's not over. We're going to talk about what is next in this case, plus coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan investigates a bloody sword ends a messy love triangle, and then the surviving 2 members of the group get interrogated by police. Tonight, we break down this intense interrogation as we investigate the death of Grace Jennings.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates. Tonight, 9/8 Central, only on Court TV.
Donna Adelson is facing charges of murder, the death of her former son-in-law.
Now that Donna has turned into a defendant, what's next for the Adelson clan?
The Matriarch Mastermind Murder Trial. Live coverage this August on Court TV.
It goes without saying that we're extremely disappointed with the result. This was a fair trial. The family and I would like to point out our thankfulness for the state's attorney's office. They did an exhaustive job. They conducted a thorough trial, and they were indeed well prepared. So on behalf of the family, again, thank you, the state's attorney's office. The case is not over. There are lesser included charges. We anticipate that the state's attorney's office will file an information, but I'm going to let the state's attorney's office speak for itself. That is one aspect of what our office is doing for the McGrath family. As you may know, there are many civil cases that are still pending.
It is a civil arena, not a criminal arena. So there are different standards of care, and there is a different burden of proof. And we will still be pursuing justice to hold anyone that bears any responsibility that led to the chain of events that night. It's our job to hold them responsible. That will come with time, and we're confident that we'll get there.
And you can tell they were not expecting this result. I mean, no criminal conviction. Yeah, some deadlocks, and those charges are still alive. Let's bring back in our think tank here in studio. Randy Kessler, Meg Strickler, Josh Schiffer. So what happens here with the criminal charges that survived through deadlock?
They can recharge.
Yeah. So
will they?
Josh made a good point. There's some testimony. He's now talked, right? Usually you don't have the defendant talking on the stand. They can analyze that, and if they think he said anything that's incriminating, have at it.
I hope they just let it go. I mean, that's my hope, but...
And what do you mean, let it go?
Not recharge and not do another trial. That's what I mean by let it go. I think Josh is right. It's going to happen. You asked what I think.
Well, what are your criminal defense lawyers?
Prosecution has an obligation to pursue justice, and you're absolutely right that the jury did not reach an agreement or accord on legitimate charges that were brought. My recommendation is that the DA streamline, make their case a lot easier, and charge what they can convict, and then get the sentence that the law allows.
Will there be some sort of negotiation, or do you think the defense is sort of puffing their chest like we're not going to take any deal here?
If it was Georgia, I can only speak about Georgia law, they would like redo it to like reckless conduct and like battery and like lesser misdemeanor type charges, so that there is a conviction secured, and that can then help the civil suits that we were just hearing about, and then we move on. That's what I think.
Randy, what's going to be the point of the civil lawsuits, do you think?
Well, first of all, money, there's money, but there's also vindication. You want to win something, right? A civil verdict says, we were right, he was wrong, he caused this. He's not going to jail because of it, but he's got to pay damages, he's got to pay money, he's got to do something which says to the family, okay, a jury of 12 decided what he did with that knife to my son was wrong. There's value in a civil verdict.
Yeah, absolutely, and it won't be difficult for them to establish the necessary burdens for a civil burden, much lower than criminal.
Most civil cases settle, like overwhelming majority.
Most criminal cases plea.
Most criminal cases plea, but not murder cases don't necessarily plea. Will this civil case be the type of civil case where the family wants a trial? They want people to have to speak. They want the truth to come out. They want a verdict, as opposed to some settlement, which is always, for whatever, we don't know, no liability, admitted publicly. Because for some reason,
you got to rely on the lawyers, too. You can't just say, if they want to pay a lawyer to get their vindication and go all the way to court and lose, you know, you're going to have a lawyer.
You think they lose in a civil case?
Define what winning is versus losing.
Winning, it's an liability is found for taking a knife and putting it in someone's chest and killing them.
Uncollectible judgments happen every day. I'm hold millions of dollars in uncollectible judgments.
I'm sure there's lots of insurance policies here.
But what kind of insurance for an intentional act? You know, there's insurance for accidents.
Wait a minute.
There's that intent again.
He just found the intent that the 12 jurors couldn't find.
Right.
All of a sudden, that becomes the defense for the insurance company.
That's exactly what they'll use.
And there is a big money issue that it will influence the family to whatever degree it does, but that should be more independent.
Doesn't the family
from
just want, like Randy said initially, they want someone to say, listen, this was wrong, you are responsible?
Well, a settlement can do that too. You can settle a case. They settle cases all the time saying, we acknowledge responsibility. Look at the big Donald Trump cases. CBS settles.
Look at what's
they acknowledge it. They didn't go to trial, but everyone knows they did something wrong because they settled and they paid money.
And at a plea, you still get victim impact statements. Just because you don't have a trial doesn't mean victims don't have a voice in court.
Yeah, they get heard.
And I believe they will get a conviction. They can get a conviction, just on the right charge.
So I just want to remind everyone that there were surviving victims whose lives could have been taken as well. Luckily, they weren't. They testify. I want you to hear them again, because I think they give you the best representation of what happened that night. And maybe that's what led to this jury's verdict. I don't know. But to me, these are the most important people who testified in the trial.
They was just standing there and they was bickering with Tyler Rich, like arguing with him.
It's how long would you say the arguing back and forth lasted for?
Like 30 seconds, if that.
After 30 seconds, did something happen?
Yes.
What happened?
A punch was thrown.
Do you recall who threw that punch?
Yes, I do.
Who threw that punch?
Tyler Rich.
And do you recall why he threw that punch?
No, I don't recall why.
Did you participate in the fight?
Yes, I did.
What did you do during the fight?
I was throwing some kicks.
Okay, what kind of kicks?
Like stomps.
Were they hard? Were they soft? What kind of?
They weren't too hard.
Okay. Why did you do that?
Why did I do that? Because these individuals, they came on the Tyler Rich's property uninvited, trying to cause an issue. Looked over to the right of him, and I seen Jimmy, like, just sitting there bleeding out. And Sal and Jacob were, like, trying to help him. And after that, someone came up to me with a flashlight, and they was like, face on your arm. And all I saw was, like, a big piece of fat, like, hanging out of my arm. And just blood, like, bleeding down the side of me.
At the time when he was hitting you in your left leg?
Yes.
Did you know you were being stabbed?
No, I did not, but I felt like being punched.
Okay. And did you have any other feelings when this was happening other than being punched?
Yeah, I was able to feel like almost like a sharp pop, but I didn't acknowledge it was a stab. I didn't know in the moment, but it did feel stronger than a fist. I was in shock. My body, I didn't really have anything that I fully did after that I could, recall. I was just sitting there. My body was bleeding, and I was just looking around, like trying to soak in what's going on.
Did you realize you were bleeding? When did you realize you were bleeding?
When the car eventually drove away, I realized I was bleeding.
And when you realized you were, who did somebody bring it to your attention that you were bleeding? Or?
No, I brought it to my attention because I knew it was drizzling out, but I didn't think it was pouring. And I was like, why is my leg soaked? I feel like I'm covered in water. And then I took a flashlight out from my phone and I put it on my leg. And then I realized my leg from my quad all the way down to my ankle was covered in blood. There was no skin to see, and my shoes were covered in blood.
I kind of was just over top of the defendant, punched him in the face 2 times, and then I just felt a jab in my side, and I looked down, and I see the defendant with his right hand clenched up in a ball like this, and he's just poking at my side.
Did you see any weapon on him?
No, I didn't see a weapon or anything. I just seen his fist and just going like this repeatedly over and over again. I didn't even realize I was hurt or anything. And then my buddy, Ty Wood, came up to me and was like, are you okay? Like, you're bleeding. And he pointed down at my side, and I had bled through all my clothing.
If it was a gun, would this have been a different result?
It'd be a lot more deaths.
No. If the results are the same, but instead of using a knife, he used a gun. So he shot and killed James McGrath and maybe grazed these other people, or they were shot with non...
Is there a law against defending yourself?
I mean, it might have been the same. Didn't you just hear the victim, that other victim, said, I was on top of him punching the defendant, and then all of a sudden I felt him stabbing me. That's self-defense 101.
Literally. Yeah. I was just stomping people.
No, but I'm asking you, if it's a gun. So is it okay if it's a gun?
Mutual combat justifies...
Same logic. Same logic, so a gun would be okay? Okay.
I'm not saying a gun would be okay.
No, for this jury would look at it, a gun's fine, knife is fine,
we don't know.
It's a fist fight.
It depends on the jury. People feel differently about guns and knives. It depends who's on the jury.
If you follow the escalation of force dynamic that law enforcement relies on every day, there are very specific responses, and a gun comes in way earlier than you'd think. As soon as you have the ability to say, I might be in danger of losing my life, such as a one punch to the head. We've covered the one punch death case. You're allowed to use deadly force.
I'll bet you anything if it was a gun, it'd be a different result.
Yeah.
All right, when we come back, we've got another case involving a teenager, a 17-year-old teenage girl from Georgia, charged with the murder of her mother and stepfather.
On February 20th. On the morning of February 20th, 2025, deputies with the Carroll County Sheriff's Office responded to a tragic scene at 1531 Carrollton Tyus Road. They discovered the bodies of James Brock, 45, and Kristen Brock, 41, both deceased from apparent gunshot wounds. From the very moment the 911 call was received, a relentless investigation began, one that would span months consume thousands of man hours, and require the full weight of the local and federal law enforcement agency partnerships. Today, we can confirm that an arrest has been made in the case. Kristen Brock's 17-year-old daughter, Sarah Grace Patrick, has been taken into custody and charged with 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault in connection with the deaths of her mother and her stepfather.
A lot of people talking about this case and talking about this defendant, 17 years old, accused of murdering her mother and her stepfather. And you take a look at that mugshot. Does it look like your typical double murder suspect? No, it doesn't. I mean, she looks young, she's got freckles, but this is a serious case, and it's still a very active investigation. And here to shed more light on the case is Carroll County Sheriff's Office spokesperson Ashley Hulsey from Georgia. Ashley, thank you so much for joining us. The timing of this, was this a difficult case to solve? Why 5 months?
Well, as you know, Vinnie, every good investigation takes time. Our main goal is to follow where the evidence leads and make sure that we make the arrest of those that are responsible. And as you know, and I stated in my press conference yesterday, unlike CSI and other things that we watch on television, evidence is not processed overnight. As much as we would like for that to happen, that is not the case. So it has taken months to be able to send all of these things to different laboratories throughout the country to be able to get some of this forensic evidence back that, of course, led us to the arrest yesterday of the 17-year-old Sarah Grace Patrick.
Okay, and you talk about forensic evidence. Is that the basis of this? Are there any admissions, any eyewitnesses? What is the nature of the evidence against this 17-year-old?
So I think, you know, in the beginning when we responded to the scene, you know, there was no signs of forced entry. There didn't appear to be a robbery. We had 2 victims that had been shot to death in the home that had a 17-year-old and a 5-year-old in it at the time. And, you know, she said she didn't hear any of the gunshots go off. That kind of makes you wonder and tilt your head a little bit. But of course, we had to collect evidence, as you know, and throughout this process, as I said yesterday, we have processed digital evidence, forensic evidence, DNA evidence, everything that we can to try to make a case and, you know, hold the right person accountable.
So would it be accurate that she was a person of interest right out of the box?
I would say that everybody was pretty much a suspect right out of the box. You know, but you know as well as I do, when you have a homicide of that nature, you always want to work your way from the inside out. Carroll County is a rural community for the most part, and we don't have stranger-on-stranger crime a lot.
Is there a belief that there may be more people involved in this?
We believe there absolutely positively could be other individuals involved, and we have been speaking with Sarah over the past couple of days and hoping to shed more light on that aspect of this crime.
Okay, so that's interesting. So the defendant is speaking. The defendant is cooperating?
She has been cooperative. Her family has been cooperative. Like I said, she's been in custody since yesterday, so I have not gotten a lot of updates since then. But prior to her being arrested, she had been cooperative in speaking with investigators.
Has she revealed a motive?
We're still working towards that. We're still gathering evidence. Very active, very fluid. Even though we've made an arrest, there's still a lot of work to be done.
Without revealing the motive, do you have an idea as to why this happened? I know you can't reveal a lot in an active investigation, but are you working under the knowledge that you believe you know why this happened?
We hope to know why this happened. You know, that's what we're working towards. I know there's a lot of conspiracy theories and different things that have been shared all over every social media platform since yesterday, and we're just trying to get down to the root of it so that hopefully one day we can share that with the public as well.
And how's the 5-year-old doing?
You know, based off of, again, social media things that I've seen posted from the family members, they're taking excellent care of her. I think she misses her mom and dad very much. And, you know, what do you do with a small child like that who found them that morning and was the one that had to witness that. So I'm sure she has a long road of recovery ahead of her, and we pray for her and her family every day.
Is there any surveillance video that's been useful in this investigation?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
And I know, or I've heard, that the defendant spoke at the funeral.
That is correct.
Was there anything significant that she said that helped investigators?
You know, when you're investigating a crime, everything, you know, we watch everything. As you know, I'm sure one of our main goals in an investigation is to look at every aspect. So, of course, we had investigators that attended the funeral, because sometimes you will have things that happen, unfortunately, that might lead you in the direction of a suspect or give you pause. And, you know, she seemed to be upset about her parents being murdered, but I was not there in person, so I don't know if there were actual tears when that happened. And she also said, you know, I'm sorry at the end of it. She could have been apologizing for being upset, or it could have had a deeper meaning. We may never know.
And how about the rest of the family? What has their reaction been to this arrest? Has it made them more cooperative, less cooperative? How is that sort of playing out?
I have not spoken to any of the family personally, but talking with the investigators, everybody's been cooperative. Everyone that they have spoken to thus far has been very cooperative. There's a lot of TikToks going around with different family members who have spoken out today and, you know, said that they, you know, are really upset by what they have found out, but they kind of suspected it along the way. So that's really sad when you have a family member that could have possibly done this to a loved one.
And as to the charges, what are the specific charges, and what sort of sentence is she looking at on the high end right now? And do you suspect there's an opportunity that there could be some sort of negotiation at some point?
So I really couldn't speak to that. That would be something the district attorney would have to answer. You know, the investigators have been meeting with the district attorney on this case throughout this process, so that would be a question for them. But at this moment, the Carroll County Sheriff's Office has charged her with two counts of murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault, and I would suspect that more counts would follow in the indictment to come.
Ashley Halsey, Carroll County Sheriff's Office, appreciate your time. Let me just ask you this. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you think the public should know and that is important about this case?
You know, because it is still an open, active case, we do believe that there are individuals out there that probably have some information. And I would say this, now that this has been public, that Sarah has been arrested, there could be something in your mind that a conversation was had that now means something that maybe didn't mean something 5 months ago. So we would encourage those people to come forward and contact the sheriff's office. Even if they think it's insignificant, it actually could be a big deal. So, you know, we urge those people to reach out so we can continue to give this family the closure that they deserve.
Ashley Halsey, thank you so much. Appreciate your time. I know you're busy. We thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
All right, let's bring back in our think tank Randy Kessler, Meg Strickler, Josh Schiffer, all licensed to practice right here in the great state of Georgia. What are your thoughts here? How is this going to play out?
Guaranteed.
How important is the why of it? To me, I feel like the why of it could be connected to another potential suspect.
Guaranteed.
There's something
more.
else big that's going to fall here.
There's a lot.
Who influenced her? Who was she around?
Yep.
Her social media.
Yes.
And it's a death penalty qualifying case. Understand that. They theoretically could.
But at 17, she can't.
Oh, yeah. This is Georgia. We put people to death.
At 17?
It's an adult charge of murder, brother. We do that. It's demanded.
Now, what I do think there's going to be more to the story about every aspect of this, and that this case was investigated back in February, they combed social media then, and they've combed social media even today, because there's all these commentating that's happening from people all over the place. But who did she go to school with? Who were her friends? You know, everything.
What's surprising to me is there may be other people. I mean, the first thing you do, if you're her lawyers, hey, if there's somebody else, you make sure you throw them under the bus.
She's cooperating.
Right, she's cooperating, but
Boyfriend?
there's no one else arrested yet. That's sort of shocking.
Who was her boyfriend? Was there sexual abuse is what I immediately thought of. I'm sorry, that's what I immediately thought of. The stepfather.
We're lawyers, so we have dirty minds because it just happens to be accurate too many times, and that's exactly where I go.
It's Menendez brothers stuff we're talking about.
But my other issue
no
is,
evidence of that.
When did this girl get told that she needed to go get a lawyer, and when did this young lady get a lawyer? Because when I hear a 17-year-old is cooperating with the investigation into the shooting of her parents as a lawyer, that's about as terrifying as you get.
Do you think it's surprising? I was surprised because she's 17 years old, obviously not a sophisticated criminal.
Impossible.
And they took their time. They took 5 months to arrest her.
Well, this is a serious arrest. You're going to arrest the daughter and the stepdaughter? You better get this one right. You get this one wrong, there's your career.
Right, but I mean, how sophisticated of a crime could this possibly be by this 17-year-old with freckles?
But you have to get the forensics, the phone data.
Yeah.
You
and
have
it's
to
hard
get
because she lived in the house, so of course her fingerprints are everywhere. Of course her saliva's on the
And
dishes.
of course they had a Ring camera. You know there's that video. And there's pole cams out that way too. Come on.
And as common now, you go and slay and hang the victims. And the character assassin, they got to do that due diligence to make sure that the victims are not represented, but the state has a good view of who the victims really were.
And you get the full picture.
She is an adult.
But I think there's someone...
Yeah, she's an adult.
She's an adult, period.
I think maybe they're waiting to get the other person. They believe there might be more than one.
That was sure
involved.
alluded to from that lady,
To me, that's the key to the whole thing. Thank you so much. Randy Kessler, Meg Strickler, Josh Schiffer. Appreciate it. When we return, I will reveal something else you need to know tonight. Plus, coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, the violent murder of Grace Jennings. A love triangle turned violent and deadly. Did the man in the middle of all of this confess? Tonight, we take a look at his interrogation.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates, coming up next, only on Court TV.
These are the cases that captivated the world.
Couldn't keep my life straight. They were killed by their own children.
That challenged the legal system and ourselves. Court TV, Legendary Trials.
Welcome back. Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Let's take a look at the big board. Down the drain. What are they going to learn, especially down in Florida? You commit a crime and then you try to run from law enforcement. They're going to catch you. Take a look at this video from Hillsborough County, Florida. They never get away. He tried to literally hide down the drain. Was he going to get help from the Ninja Turtles? Unbelievable. Good job by law enforcement. All right, folks, I need you to take a look at the TV screens. We have a missing child who needs your help tonight. This is Avelyn Nicole Hunt. Avelyn is missing out of Port Huron, Michigan, just 13 years old. This is what you need to do. Take a look at her photo. If you see her, pick up the phone, make a call, make a difference. 911. 1-800-THE-LOST or the Port Huron Police Department in Michigan. That number's on your screen right now. Let's see if we can get Avelyn to a safe place tonight. Don't go anywhere. We have another hour of live true crime. Vinnie Politan Investigates is next. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids.